Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 18th, 2025 edition of the Washington County Committee for Community
Start
Involvement.
over again, please. Now we're live.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 18th, 2025 edition of the Washington County Committee for Community Involvement, the CCI. My name is Bruce Bartlett, and I have the honor of chairing this organization. Mary Manso has the honor of being the vice chair and has a sharp stick that she makes sure I do what needs to be done. We have other members of the steering committee here. Um, Tonight, we are honored to have a relatively new employee of Washington County, Elisa Sojourner, the new director of the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, to introduce herself and to talk a little bit about some of her plans and uh, and um, and to talk about how the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement and the CCI can work collaboratively on modernizing the CPO program. So welcome, Alicia. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight. I invite you to introduce yourself and say a few words and thoughts about how you are engaging the county. So take it away.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Nice to virtually meet you all. I see many names that I've heard of over my 2 months now being with the county. So I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for the invite as well. So just very quickly about myself, I am not a Pacific Northwestern native. I hail out of the Midwest, in particular Minnesota. And so while I do not miss the snow and the cold, I most definitely miss the sun because there was a lot more sun in the winter in Minnesota. So I've been connected with or involved with some form of community engagement, being a statewide organizer for early childhood education and helping people become citizen lobbyists, to also doing community engagement work under the late Senator Paul Wellstone when he was our senator in Minnesota, and then done a number of years, 25 plus years now of some form of equity and inclusion work. Over the years. It's been called different things, but somehow in some way trying to advance fairness and helping create a just community where I'm working and or where I live as well. So that's just very a quick snapshot of me. I am officially an empty nester, so both of my adult children are out of the house, and it's really, really nice and always quiet and clean now. So I enjoy that. So being with the county now for 2 months, um, as you all know, we had an amazing employee, Amanda, who moved on to advance her career. And while it was really sad to see her leave, Ika has stepped into taking on a lot of her roles. And we will be looking sooner than later to really, when I say sooner and later, I'm talking about within the next 2 months or so, really looking at what is the best structure for not just the Office of Equity and Inclusion and that side, but also our community engagement side. Things that we want to find different ways to engage with multiple community members, especially community members both in the rural and in the urban unincorporated areas, and really understanding that there are a difference between the two and how can we best serve our different populations. So that is something that myself and Ika is starting to really get a grasp on, as well as she's been great at filling me in. And I will have to also thank Bruce for giving me even more information about the CPO and the CCI program. And so our hope is that over the next few months, we can really understand the landscape and the best ways, not just to modernize the program, but to really have authentic connection between the county as well as the community itself. This summer, we will be doing a community-wide survey to also understand what are the needs within the community, and really hoping to get a wider and deeper grasp of what's happening, what's not happening. There's lots of things shifting and changing at a federal level, so we're also wanting to understand those impacts on our communities as well. So we are, while I'm 2 months in and learning a lot, thanks to Amanda and Ika, we're really I should say I know Ika is as well, but I'm really excited to get to know the program more. And really tonight, when I'm done talking, I just want to listen and hear what is going on, hear your all's needs, but also even wants as well. So we can really help shape the way we engage with our community, not just now, but as we move forward as well. So I really thank you for the opportunity to come and just say a few words to you all and get to know you all. And I'll be listening and really in a space to listen and soak in the wisdom from each and every single one of you. So thank you again for the invite and allowing me some time on your schedule. And I will be here throughout your all's meeting. I'll go back in the background again, but I will just say my door is always open. Um, So questions, thoughts, feedback, I'm always open to hear that from community, because ultimately that's who we're here to serve, is our community. So my door virtually and literally is always open. So with that, thank you again, and I'll pass it back to Bruce. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Those were heartening words to hear. I liked the acknowledgement that we have both an urban and a rural component to Washington County residents. And indeed, while there are similarities, there are certainly differences. Um, the authentic connection, I think, is something that I look forward to crafting between the county and residents also. Let me see, how many people do we have uh, in the gallery? Why don't we just go around kind of quickly and introduce ourselves and say like a sentence about what brings us here. And I'll start. Bruce Bartlett, I'm both the chair of the CCI and vice chair of CPO1. And my interest is really creating a resilient community out of this work. And so I'll pass it to CPO1 Chair Virginia Bruce to take it from there.
Hi, I am chair of CPO1. I have been for several years. Bruce and I do sort of a tag team as far as deciding topics and running meetings. I'm just interested in making sure that the CPO system remains as an independent voice for the residents of the county, to make sure that we're part of the land use decisions, because that was our charge from the beginning. And rather than the fox guarding the hen house, we want to stay independent.
Very good. And Fran, why don't you say a few words both as your dual CPO1 and tree keepers role?
Yes, so the CPO system has the opportunity for at-large groups that have a significant interest in the county land use. So Tree Keepers of Washington County I'm representing them, and I live in CPO1. I also am on the state's Citizen Involvement Advisory Board, and I work a lot with the equitable community engagement toolkit that we're developing at the state level. So I've been significantly engaged with the DEI programs and very much concerned about significant natural resources. And I want to voice what Virginia said. We want the CPO program to be very helpful in the way of land use in particular, because it's a very complex and robust thing here in Washington County and hard for the residents to understand. So we're the helpful interpreters. Thank you, Bruce. And thank you. Welcome to Washington County.
And so I think we got CPO3 next. Let's see, Ben, did he just disappear? He did. Anybody? Oh, Ben, CPO3.
Disappear, reappear, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ben Marcotte from CPO3, which is Garden Home in Raleigh Hills. One of the things that's kind of kept me attending over the years is how Washington County has such a large urban unincorporated population, and that really adds a lot of complexity and, and spice to what we do that a lot of other places just don't have to deal with. And this is where you get the news that affects being a resident of an urban unincorporated area.
Very good. Any other CPO3 people?
Stan is on.
Stan, there we go.
Hey there, Stan Hausman. Been involved far fewer years than practically every single person here, but it's been a while. I agree with Ben in the unincorporated part aspect, because we don't have much in the way of a robust means of getting information out to people because what happens in one CPO is happening in practically every other single CPO. And so it's sort of an echo chamber sometimes as far as the trying to get the messaging out and things accomplished the way we would like to add to what is part of the whole process of this, to be the informers and the educators, if you will. So
thank you. And that brings us to CPO4K. Is Gretchen here? Yeah, Dawn, hello.
Hey everyone, I'm Dawn. Yes, I'm with CPO K4, and that is King City and vicinity, so just around the Tigard area here. I personally live in an unincorporated area, but soon to be incorporated by King City. So I'm still pretty new, kind of just listening in. And I've participated in CPO, like going to the meetings, but I'm new to coming to the CCI meetings and as a participant on the board of the CPO. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you. CPO4K.
I'm Gretchen Wiener. I'm currently an at-large member, but I was the founder of CPO4K 25 years ago now, and have been active in the community. I've also lived in Tigard. I've served on um, both planning commissions and city council in Tigard and King City. I'm a retired real estate and land use lawyer. I used to be a hearings officer. I've represented people who want development, people opposing development. I've represented folks who are trying to save forest land. So been around a long time, and I'm very, very glad that you're here, and am really interested in maximizing the ability for citizens to have input into what's going on in their community.
All right, thank you, Gretchen. CPO4K. For CPO4M, Jim.
Hello, my name is Jim Long. I actually worked for the County Administrative Office over 50 years ago before the CPO program started. I did take part in some meetings for some of the comprehensive plans, particularly in the Banks area. I'm very much a champion of citizen involvement. I started a movement to the green pages or the blue pages, a telephone directory improvement to create access, improved access. President Jimmy Carter hired me. So I worked at the federal level a bunch. And at CPO4M, we've been working on a number of things, but particularly regarding significant natural resources in Goal 5.
Significant natural resources. Thank you, Jim. Jill.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jill Warren, and I've been with CPO4M, which stands for Metzger, for about 20 years. And it's just a wonderful program to get people to come together and find out and learn what's going on with all development. And, you know, we do have such a beautiful area that we live in, and lots of wildlife. And I've got pictures of deer across the street, and I've got raccoons coming through my yard, and all kinds of raptors. I mean, it's just fascinating. So it's just nice to be active in preserving that sort of lifestyle that can balance out the development, which definitely we need. So the CPO is just a wonderful way for people to learn what's going on and to come and find out what's going on. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jill. Mary Lou, did I overlook you for CPO1? I think I did.
I think you did,
I did.
but that's okay. So my name's Mary Lou Oberson. I got involved with the CPO system when a forest behind my house went away and a big housing development went in. And so I became intimately interested in the land use process. And so ever since I've tried to be involved as much as I can. I've learned a lot. And right now I'm involved with Fran with an organization called Tree Keepers of Washington County. And we're about saving existing trees in the county, mostly the unincorporated parts of the county, which don't have any protection right now, not much anyway. So this is the only and best way for the community to get involved. And so that's why I'm here.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. CPO 5, 6. Anybody from CPO 6?
This is Nancy. I'm with CPO 6, Nancy Fletcher.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And yeah, so I pretty much can just ditto what everybody else just said. I'm, really want to get involved to help so many people, so many citizens, so many people, the majority are busy working. They're at an age that they're just consumed with their jobs, their children, this type of thing, and they just don't have time to really get involved. So really, that was one of the key reasons why I wanted to get more involved, to get the information out to them. And so that maybe they can spend an hour a month, listening to or looking for their feedback, but I've also been involved with the significant natural resource, working with Fran and Jim and the others on that subcommittee, and very interested in smart development, like smart placement of the developments. And yes, we do need more housing. And so again, getting a word in and involving the citizens and
It's quite a
community.
balance.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. CPO 7, Mary.
I'm Mary Manso from CPO 7. CPO 7 is the area that includes Bethany and Rock Creek, Oak Hills, and then it extends down past Sunset Highway all the way to Baseline Road. So pretty large area. I got involved in the program because I realized that as Bethany was developing, the people who were moving into the houses did not have a voice because they had either not arrived in Bethany, not arrived in Washington County, not arrived in the state, and realized that as a resident of the area, I needed to speak for them. I needed to be sure that development happened in a way that people would want to move into the homes that were being built. Alicia, thank you so much for listening. I think it's been something that has been missing in OEICE. I think there's been a lot of assumptions about what our program is. And so thank you very much for coming to listen to us and to help understand that we are basically a land use committee, and that land use is really important to our county. There are so many decisions that are made based upon land use decisions. So thank you again for listening.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody from CPO 8 here? We have two Nancys. Is the other Nancy CPO 8?
She should be CPO 7.
7. Oh, Nancy. Oh, CPO 7 Nancy.
CPO 7 Nancy, yes.
Take it away if you want to. Okay, well, we can come back to that. CPO 7, CPO 8. Anybody from CPO 8 here online? Not seeing it. 9, 10. Barbara Brennan, what CPO are you with?
Hi, I'm with CPO 14 in Banks, Buxton, Manning, Timber area.
Okay, well, there's CPO 10, CPO 11, 12, 13. Anybody from the CPO 13?
Hi, Bruce and everyone.
Kevin, hi.
Hi, it's Jackie and baby James. Kevin's here too. CPO 13, Roy, Verboort, and Gales Creek. And definitely wanted to invite Alicia, since she's on here, to come visit our rural Washington County and use us as a resource for any working lands or agriculture questions. And we're lifelong learners and passionate about protecting farmland. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, CPO 14 now.
This is Ayla from 14.
Howdy.
Howdy. Yeah. Alicia, thank you for joining us. Welcome on board. I think you'll realize you have about 1,000 years worth of land use experience, wise people here that you now can claim as your own. CPO 14 is Banks, Buxton, Timber. We go all the way to the western edge of Washington County, primarily rural. We do have the urban area of Banks. And so I was around with Jim Long when CPOs were first starting in the 80s, and glad to be back doing it again. There's a real need for improving our public notice methodology, taking a look at how we balance individual rights with social development in urban areas. I'm an advocate for individuals being able to live on their land. but also want to have smart growth and participate on the significant natural resource subcommittee as well.
Very good. Thank you. And Barbara.
Hi, yeah, I'm new to the Banks area, but call it my hometown now for now in this stage of my life. And so I became involved with the CPO as it was being reconstituted, I guess, middle of last year or so during 2024. And feel very strongly that, as Ayla mentioned, that we need to do a better job of making people aware and having the opportunity to comment on and understand what's going on in their community, and be involved, have the opportunity to be involved, and make a difference and truly become a strong, cohesive community in both the quote unquote urban, although I really wouldn't call it urban, the city part of Banks, and the rural parts of this area too, that include Buxton, Manning, and Timber. And thank you, Alicia. It's great to have you on board with us.
As a resident of Forest Grove, born and raised there, I have a hard time seeing Banks as an urban area, but it is these days. And Paul, it looks like you're batting cleanup for CPO 15.
Okay. Well, CPO 15 is located south of Cornelius in a community known as Blooming. Around me, what I have are lots of trees. There are nurseries, there's a golf course, there's landscaping companies, et cetera, all around me, but nothing that even remotely looks urban. And all of CPO 15, no part of CPO 15 is in any of the cities in Washington County. So that's one aspect of CPO 15 that is unique. Now, I became involved in the early 2000s when the CPO was just about to go defunct. And I saw the importance of staying on top of land use development. So that's got me involved. But over the years, we have addressed lots of other issues than just land use. And livability is one of the important things to almost all of us. We look at livability and the things that influence that are the ability to walk safely from here to there, be able to negotiate, navigating around the county. One of the things that happens out here frequently, if people are trying to avoid the city, so they come out in our area in order to get around all of it. But
and they bring it with them.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul. It looks like we have a CPO 8 member who joined. Fawn, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words? Or not? Kind of, it's a pop quiz, isn't it? All right. Well, Fawn is a member of CPO 8. And was involved in a variety of things, including the formation.
Here I am.
Oh, here we go.
Sorry, I'm of course I'm not at home and there's noise around me. But hi. I'm so CPO 8 and we'll be meeting on Thursday night. And we're launching, our group is launching into some strong town stuff. I don't know whether you've heard of strong towns, but it's a national, maybe international movement. If you search, do a web search of strong towns, you'll find good information. It has some, in its concepts, it has some relationships to the old LUTRAC. If you remember LUTRAC in the 90s, LUTRAC was LUTRAQ for land use, transportation, and air quality. And what they did was recommend planned communities that would have a tight center with all the things you need so you don't have to travel for your daily needs, you know, maybe a store, maybe a cleaner, maybe a laundromat, maybe a, you know, a couple of cafes. And it was during the time when Bethany was designed. So Bethany is one example of a Lutrac community, or a Renko, another one. And they work pretty well as communities. But then I don't know, it came out of fashion. We never heard of Lutrac anymore. But now we have strong towns. So, and I think it has.
An internet interruption, it sounds like.
For growing either interior or exterior from the UGB, to reduce the number of miles traveled on local streets. So
Great.
that's
Well,
what we're
thank you,
doing
Fawn.
today. Yeah. Meanwhile, another
I would
huge
like to say that Fawn was a supporter of getting a tax base passed for the Tualatin Soil and Water Conservation District a few years ago, which has
yeah.
resulted in a great deal of activity supporting our soil water conservation efforts. So,
Yeah,
well,
yes, I was active in that. Meanwhile, we're also working really hard on the problem of data centers requiring more land, more electricity, more water, and they're a huge impact on Hillsborough. We just learned that there's a substation proposed outside the UGB, of course, in Helvetia. And we're working with a probable proposal for a solar farm in Helvetia. And all of those things are another of 1,000 cuts that disrupt the farming economy. So anyway, it's a slog. It's a slog. So that's my report.
thank you, Fawn. Thank you. Well, Alicia, do you have a kind of an overview of the atypical people who think that land use issues are a good hobby? And everybody here is nodding their head and grinning because I don't know if we represent anybody other than land use nerds in this. So I gave everybody a homework assignment to review the draft paper responding to the CPO modernization guidelines. Mary and I worked on it quite a bit, actually, before we got it posted. And I want to thank Mary for brutalizing it on a number of occasions to help it arrive at the point that it is. I almost feel like getting a show of hands for somebody who's at least opened up the document to look at it. I just kind of a few of it. So I didn't intend to go through the whole thing line by line, but I might. So one of the things that I realized the project needed was desired outcomes. And so the first section lays out things that Mary and I, and by extension, people who commented in past months on the program have said that we needed. And something that we want to emphasize is that we need an entirely new, completely thorough resolution and order defining the program. We've talked about just revising an earlier resolution and order, but I don't think that really captures the magnitude of what we need. We need to have bylaws defined, at least templates. We need to have the websites at the county updated to reflect the new program. Training plans for all different types of community members, CPO leaders and non-CPO leaders, civic leaders, and an updated CPO handbook that can be used for onboarding new leaders. We've run into some issues with new leaders using the program for political purposes, which is not in the purview of the CPO program. And this really is a result of not having had a good onboarding program. So I would encourage anybody listening to this to raise your hand and ask questions as we go through this. And maybe I'll say something that you object to, or maybe something that you really love. In either case, I look forward to as much dialogue during this process as we can muster. Did I hear a pop? Jim?
Yeah, Bruce, you mentioned that it was political purposes, that CPOs were being used for political purposes. Could you summarize what you're talking about?
Yes, as the CPO program being sponsored by the county is subject to the public meeting laws. And just like county employees are not permitted to campaign for political causes, taking a position on a particular political cause, we as CPO members are prohibited from taking measures, from taking positions as a body on political issues. So it's fine for individuals to say anything you want to about any subject, but when speaking on behalf of a CPO, we are required to be neutral and to present both sides. Is that sufficient, Jim?
If that's all you have to say, yes, that's fine.
Well, that's all I think I need to say right now.
This is Ayla.
Ayla.
I just would add that in our CPO, we do find that we want to support all political views in our community. And we invite any political candidate, though, to come and share their point of view and talk about the issues that concern them, not endorsing anybody, but we feel that we are a voice to be a catalyst to others. And so we want to invite those people that want to come and talk to us. And we hope that those folks realize that CPO communities are, neutral, but that we do represent a lot of folks, and we are a great platform for them to introduce themselves and let us know what they think is important.
That is certainly true. Thank you. So that's all I really wanted to say about the project outcomes. In all of these, I encourage you readers to look at it and I welcome very challenging suggestions for edits. So, Fran, what do you got?
A couple of things. One is thank you very much to the authors here. It's a really good 16-page comprehensive document, but very well put together. Thank you. For the benefit of many of the new members of CCI or CPO leaders, and if Alicia's still on, one of the things the CPO has done in the past is we did develop a handbook. We did develop training materials. We never got a chance to really implement them because of the disconnect with OEICE or community engagement in the past. So many of us have put in a lot of hours into developing these materials to bring people up to speed. And there used to be also CPO training used to be part of the civic leaders training process. So our perception is over the years that we have not had an opportunity to put in that training that's already been developed and needs to be modernized, needs to be updated, but it's been kind of left as a doorstop somewhere. So in the document, we really want to include that training materials should be something that is supplemented by our previous work and not just something new that something they could build on.
Great point. Great point. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the guidelines. I want to give short comment. Is there somebody have a comment? If you're not talking, then silence your microphone, please. Modernize the language. Yes, let's modernize the language. Absolutely. But we don't do that simply by revising a previous resolution and order. We do it by creating out of whole cloth a new resolution and order. And that going forward, I don't think in this meeting, but in the next meeting, we will vote on, as a body, as CCI, on endorsing our replies to the guidelines. So be thinking about anything that you'd want to add or change or quibble with or argue vociferously about, because next week or next month, we will be finalizing our responses to provide to community engagement. So the updated focus and scope. One of the comments that was made is that the CPO program exceeded its original focus and scope. And aside from being involved in overt political campaigns, not a single one of us understands how we have exceeded our focus and scope, especially since the guideline says that restoring the original focus of the CPO program so that it advises the Board of County Commissioners primarily about land use and transportation planning within the unincorporated areas, and then CPOs could continue to provide opportunities for community updates on other topics. And this is what we call livability. I sort of move from calling it quality of life to simply livability. What are the issues that impact us? And in the eastern part of the county, we have the Tualatin Hills Park and Rec District, which is a regional park provider that provides park services for both the unincorporated areas of Bethany and Cedar Mill, as well as the entire city of Beaverton. So if we had traditional government structure, all of the unincorporated area would be in a city, and the city would be providing park services. Since that's not the case, sort of in two different ways, we feel that the CPO program should be chartered to comment on any service district activity that provides urban services to us. That's parks, fire and rescue, water, and so on. The original focus and charter, as we describe in the document, was not to advise the county commissioners as much as it was to satisfy the requirements of Oregon's Land Use Goal 1, that people be involved in the processes. And since then, or in particular the planning process, and since then, planning has had a co-equal element of actually implementing the plans. And so Goal 1 charges us to be involved in all aspects of this land use process. So any advice that the county commissioners get is in a way incidental to us being involved in the land use processes. And so we definitely want to know what it is that we are specifically being asked to not do. I was quite intrigued when I learned that CPO 10 this month featured estate planning for rural residents. CPOs 8 and 14 and 13 have brought on Oregon's water laws. There's just myriad subjects, emergency preparedness, that are to us valid elements. So, Virginia, what do you got?
It seems to me that our role of advising the commission is to bring the concerns of our constituents to them and advising the commission on how people are receiving county policies and land use policies. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, that's a very good point of view, because the CPO program is the only public-facing advisory committee that we have. All other advisory committees, the boards and commissions, all face the departments that they advise. And the CPO deals with the wild and woolly, rambunctious, and often angry general public who has issues. So we have our work cut out for us. And Fran, what do you got?
So this brings up a good point. So at all of our CPO meetings, we have a report out from a number of service agencies, as you mentioned, specifically the Sheriff's Office and THPRD, for instance, or whatever, and they report out. I don't think that we've ever asked them if they need help from the community in voicing their concerns or needs to advise the Board of Commissioners. So that's an interesting question about what would be, is it our role, or should it be our role to solicit from them their needs and ask our public how they feel about that, and then write letters to the board advising them. It's a good point, because we already do hear them, but only about the events that are going on, or like you said, emergency preparedness, et cetera. The informational, it's a one-way informational. And then the other question I have is, where is this crossover? I think you did a good job of articulating that we are the only public-facing group at this point. There are other things like ACRE and stuff, but we don't know. Their focus is quite different from ours, is much more general. So what is the focus and scope, and what could it be or should it be? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mary, what do you got?
I can think of two instances where our CPO has reached out to the board to support, one, THPRD, and two, a county board. With THPRD, it was work that you and I and Jim Kimball did, where we realized that there was a real hole in code where developers did not have to annex to the park district. It was optional at one point. And then I think it was with the bag ban. We had a presentation from a department at Washington County, and then we wrote a letter in support of having a bag ban.
Plastic bag.
Yeah, I think, we have done some of that in the past. I think the other thing that I would encourage people to do is we actually rushed through getting this draft. So if anybody wants to go through and do any sort of wordsmithing, go for it. You're welcome to do it. And I do encourage everybody to spend some time reading it, because there may be some controversial stuff within our work that people may say, hey, this does not make sense to us.
I could see where next month, when we actually discuss endorsing our comments, that we could have a majority and minority report on these things. It's not necessary for everybody to agree. I would be delighted to have a minority report with people objecting to something that the majority supports.
But it would be good to get a heads up before the meeting if
heck yes,
people have strong opinions one way or the other, or
yes,
even mild opinions.
Yes, you all have a homework assignment to read this document
Bruce,
and make comments. This
I
is not
can't make my
cheap.
hand come up, but this is Ayla.
Hi.
Hi. Just one thing we've talked about before I would bring up again. I still think it's critical that we encourage CPOs to have a working relationship with the cities that are in our district. And um, Mayor
Yes.
welcomes us and wants to work with us and is a member of our CPO. We have a liaison representative on city council, and it's just wonderful. And so I encourage everybody to keep pursuing that relationship. And I think the livability clause is totally necessary. The scope of what we address is massive, from little birds to the elk running through my backyard, and I think we need to hang on to that wide scope. And finally, I guess, for rural issues, an example might be we have linear trails that are developed out here that are lovely, and everybody in the urban growth in the cities and the urban areas come out and enjoy them. But then we also have issues where the trails abut farmers, livestock, and tree crops and things like this. And it is a problem to have sometimes non rural people not know how to behave when they're out in rural areas, that we have a lifestyle that has to be maintained and kept safe. And so we have conflict between um, urban social justice and equality stuff, getting to go out and do whatever they want in the rural areas, and then the individual who works hard to maintain their farm and keep everything safe and fireproof and la la la. And then we have a conflict with too many people coming out and not knowing how to behave. So there are things that are going to butt up against each other, and I think the CPO is the great place to solve it. And
You
yes,
make it
yes,
really,
we
you make a
advise
really good point.
we advise the county. They don't advise us. I do not want a narrative to go by from the county. We need to be able to speak even on type 1 applications. The CPO should be elevated
Yes.
in terms of
And in all this, we must recognize that it is the county's program ultimately. So we do have some creative tension in the dynamics, which I am hoping that part of the uh, outcomes of the CPO modernization work is a service level agreement, much like the CCI has with the county now, that makes some of these issues more clear and easily stated. So thank you, Ayla. Um, moving, um, just to sort of touch on the scope, CPO1 was recognized as a group of record by the Beaverton City Council and Mayor, and we were invited to comment on uh, earlier projects. And so, if the city wants to engage the CPO program, um, how is that taken into account in the modernization effort? So let's just kind of touch on that a little bit. Membership and eligibility guideline number 3. Mary and I spent a lot of time on this, and she very proudly would provide me with her comments saying I brutalized this section. And I don't view it, coming out of 25 years at Intel, it just seemed like normal comments on a document. It didn't seem brutalizing, but it definitely made me have to go back and think about things, which I think will be the success of our review process if we are forced to have to think about things and incorporate elements that don't naturally occur to us personally. So it will be a collection of all of our thinking Maybe with one voice, maybe with two. We'll find out. So the membership, where am I here? We point out in the draft comments that the CCI performs two distinct functions. One is providing leadership and guidance for the CPO leaders, the CPO program. And the other, as per our bylaws, says that we are to review counties' public, what does it say? Review the county's public participation plans. And this is something that the county has not asked us to do in a very long time. And so that is we put in the suggestion that we need to have two different organizations, one for the CPO leadership and one for the more deeply connected review of the county's activities. And we're suggesting that the CCI that reviews county activities could be assigned using the process that the boards and commissions are using. And I would encourage all viewers here to sign up to receive announcements of the board's agendas, because about every other meeting, there are members that are assigned to the boards and commissions, and you can go and read their applications, which are really mini resumes. And I am continually amazed at the depth of knowledge that people volunteering to be on the boards and commissions bring. And this would include the Planning Commission. And I think that in doing that, it helps the applicant clarify what they're actually offering, and it gives the county, the approving bodies, an opportunity to really pick the best candidates. That said, we are in favor in the draft. We are suggesting that CPO leaders are elected by their membership in much the same way that happens now. And in addition, those members receive vetting and approval by the board in a process that is less strenuous than the boards and commissions, so that it balances the desire on the part of the citizens to let people just step forward and do it, and still gives the county some degree of, well, let's just say control in the best sense of the word. So that's any thoughts about that? Read the section on member guideline 3. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and would really appreciate some of your great minds all going through it and, shred it to pieces, tear it apart, love it. Kind of, send me Valentines over guidelines for number 3.
Do you want to comment on this?
Sure.
I'm in no way going to support that the commissioners have any ability to appoint anybody to CCI or CPO. It has to come from a grassroots. We are from the people, we are for the people, and the people choose who's going to represent us. No more administrative appointments, non-elected. No, we've have enough of that. We're drowning in appointed people.
Okay, thank you, Ayla. Mary, what do you got?
Ayla, have you read that section? Because I think we've tried to separate out the CCI or the CPO leadership
Yes.
And
But
the CPO leadership would still be that organic,
right.
elected by the people. And we would be giving up the piece of the evaluating the citizen engagement piece of it, which we've never really done as a CCI.
Right. So you're saying the CCI people would be appointed more or less by the commissioners after
Yes,
you.
yes.
And then
And
the
we'd
CCI,
let the CCI name go with that new group, and
yeah,
our elected leaders would be the leadership of the CPOs would be a different group. We
I like the
Bruce,
fact that our CCI comes out of our CPOs and not any other way. It's just another
and I don't think
control.
we're not proposing anything any different from that. It's
Well,
just there would be a name change with the role that we play as CCI right now would remain as it is. We would just have a name change, so we would be the citizen participation leaders. Is that what we were proposing
Something
it
like
be
that, yeah.
called? Yeah, it would be,
yeah,
we would still be functioning as a group. We just have a different name.
you'd be functioning, but it sounds like you're saying that the commissioners have input on who will be on that leadership team.
Well, they'd have the ability to reject.
Yeah, and that's not okay.
Well, but
So let's see
what's the
see what
possibility of them rejecting? I think
Oh, big.
that's the big
I,
thing.
I have applied to be on the planning commission 4 times, and I'm never chosen because of my position. That
They
is
wouldn't
well
be
known.
choosing. They wouldn't be choosing. They would the
I
choice
can't.
would still come from the CPOs. We would be elected by the CPOs, and the commissioners would only be able to at some point say, and it would be only only if they see them as being wingnuts that shouldn't be serving.
Well, I would
okay,
be
Mary,
concerned.
hold that
Catherine,
hold that thought. I'd like to hear what Fran has to say about this.
yeah.
2 points. I think, as you said, Bruce, this is a very hot topic. There's a majority and minority probably on this. And I don't think we're going to sway people's positions about how they feel about it. It's almost emotional topic there. But I lost my, I thought what I was going to talk about with this part of it, but I do think that we need to, at the state level, by the by, we are working to change the citizen to community. Unfortunately, it's a state law and proclamation or whatever. So it's a lot of administrative overhead to make all those corrections. But if we're going to do anything, Mary was talking about changing the name to citizen something or other. And I'm just making a statement that we start using the word community.
My mistake, my bad.
No,
And
it's okay. It's okay. I'm
I
just saying
disagree
that
with
just
that
know
too.
that the state is also we're trying to do that at the state level as well.
Yeah, well, the state level's wrong, and we need to be. Anybody can be a member, but you have to be a citizen to vote. That is what we are all about.
No.
Yes. That's how
Look
we
the definition
started.
up. Look the definition up.
I,
What citizen means.
it used to be citizen participation organization, and that's what it needs to be. Why we don't need somebody from El Salvador voting on how to use our land.
I
sorry.
don't think that's a kind of
Oh
far.
yeah. Oh yes, it is a part of it.
It's
There's
a
people
far-fetched thing.
all
So
over the world that own land in Oregon, and I'm sorry they're not citizens. And if it means showing your passport, so be it.
well, so we have specifically said that citizenship is not an element of consideration in this program. And so you're welcome to propose an alternative. I will say that the handwriting is on the wall, Ayla, in particular, in that every other CCI in the state now has approval by the governing body. Beaverton City Council approves their CCI members. The Clackamas County CCI is approved by their commissioners. There is no getting around the fact that the CCI will be assigned by the Board of County Commissioners.
Well,
And
that's
so
just
you're welcome to file a
communist,
minority report.
that's just communist position. And
Well, it's not, I mean, what is communist? That's a,
what it is you have no say, and they're taking away your right to have a say. They're putting an overlay of their narrative and their ideology. And I would be considered a wingnut by Catherine Harrington. That's all I'm saying.
You know, I'd wear that proudly. Paul, what do you got? Unmute.
I'm having trouble with my controller here. Well, Mary correctly recognizes what is being changed, and so does Fran. We have had a lot of discussion about just the use of the word citizen. And the decisions that are made here affect everybody here, whether they're a citizen or not. And there are lots of people who live here, who are not citizens, but they are legal residents here. And as a consequence, they are directly affected by all of the decisions. It is important that they have some say in what happens because of how it affects them. Doesn't mean that they have the right to vote on when it comes to candidates for state legislature. It doesn't mean that they have right to vote for federal offices, anything like that. It only has to do with what happens here in Washington County. And the same argument could be used for any other community where there are people who live there. And some of these people will eventually become citizens. It's just a matter of time. The gauntlet of citizenship is a pretty long one, and generally takes them, 6 years before you even have a chance of becoming a citizen because of all the steps that one has to take.
It looks like Ayla has gone her own way here. So thank you. So we do have
something we need to discuss, I guess.
So this is definitely a subject that I welcome dialogue on. Jim, what do you got?
Well, let's have some dialogue. Fran said earlier this evening that the state still uses the word citizen, and Washington County uses the word community. So I don't know what's wrong with, there's a subtle difference in some respects about that. But if the state is still using the word citizen, it seems like that's the appropriate way at this point.
That is.
I'm welcome. I think everybody should participate. I'm all in favor of citizen development, but if the state's that far behind, what's amazing about this is that the county's 7 or 8 or 9 years behind on doing this resolution in order, and that's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
I just want to get a quick correction. We do want to change it from citizen to community. It's just that it's a lot of administrative overhead, and so there's a lot of it costs money to do it, and it is in the works. I wanted to correct that. Recognize it's an error in thinking. Sorry.
So, yeah. Look at a dictionary, words have multiple meanings, and people making these arguments fixate on and not the collection of all the meanings. Other CCIs have changed it to community, so I don't have any heartburn about it personally. Virginia, what do you got?
Can I sort of reiterate what I'm hearing? That you're talking about two separate groups. Would we meet together? Would the one group that's appointed that only deals with how the county does outreach meet together with the people that are put forward by the CPOs? Would we,
That is a
would we
good
all meet together, or are we
I-
gonna, is it a completely
well,
different group? Why
I don't
not?
know. I mean, that would make sense in some ways to me. Um,
Mary says no.
you see, and this is how she brutalizes me. Okay, Mary, what do you got?
Well, so
Fertilizing
one of the questions I would have would be, is there a possibility for someone from the CPO leadership group to actually serve on the CCI? To have a
You
good,
cut out.
did I cut out?
Yeah, just say that last sentence.
Would it make sense to have a CCI or a rep from the CPO leadership group on CCI to have that exchange of information? To me, it makes sense to do that. But at the same time, the two are serving completely different functions.
Do we have any indication from the board that they would welcome a group of community members holding forth on how they're doing with community outreach? I mean, there's no point in setting something up that the board is absolutely opposed to, and I can't imagine that very many of the board members, well, I can imagine one or two of them, but I can also imagine a lot of opposition.
Virginia, we did not invent this. We read the CCI.
Oh, I know. I used to serve on a Metro committee that did exactly that. We evaluated all the Metro programs, and it was very interesting.
The
So
big
it's
thing
in the
is
CCI bylaws now that we do this.
Yeah, I know, but
Okay.
nobody's ever asked us.
Our hands are full just trying to coordinate the CPOs and to bring forward issues that are of countywide interest at our current CCI. And to add one more thing to our list of things to do, it's just not going to get done.
This is darn.
If we were asked to evaluate all of the county's community engagement
endeavors,
it's a full-time job. I mean, there is no way that this group could do that as well as try to coordinate the countywide issues.
Right, you'd have two separate piles of people.
Yeah.
But,
you need two
what
separate
I'm
piles.
wondering is, are they going to meet together? That's all I'm asking.
Well, that's, we don't, throw that into the mix.
Is the CPO endorsed group going to have interaction with this board approved cadre?
I don't see how they could avoid it, but just what the structure is.
Yeah,
we're working.
Okay.
And
I'm not opposed to it. I'm just skeptical as to whether there'd be anything to do, because the county's not used to running stuff by a community-based organization.
Well, then that would argue that the county wouldn't fund and support it.
Right. So
Mary.
There's not an awful lot of point in us spending a lot of time on it without any feedback that it's going to be a viable organization.
That's why we are making a comment document with our thoughts on these subjects.
Okay.
For discussion, Mary.
The goal 1 actually mandates that there be a group that evaluates community engagement activities. And
the county's just been ignoring that.
Absolutely. So, I think we're trying to highlight that, but in a sense, it's like, let's try to create the control that the county wants to have over the organization while still maintaining our piece of turf.
Yep.
So I could see my personal opinion. I would like to see all of the boards and commissions have a representative on the new CC that county is doing for public outreach and engagement.
Could you repeat that, because you're
dropping out a lot, Bruce.
Oh, damn. So we have the boards and commissions, which are all very siloed. They don't have any connection to each other. So the the various boards and commissions that deal with housing don't talk to each other, for example. And so if there were a place where the leadership of all the boards and commissions could get together to discuss how to outreach, how to get new members, how to review what the county is doing, I could see that it would be a very empowering modification to the program.
Are you thinking of this as them being members with us type citizens on that committee as well?
I would throw that idea out for discussion, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mary?
I think this can be compared to the CPO's main focus is land use, yet we don't have a representative on planning commission. And I think that's, you know, it's the county ends up being very siloed.
Yes, the relationship of the CCI to the Planning Commission is one which I hope we get some clarity and some synchronicity as we go through this process. Jim?
I think there should be a land use committee on this body, that the CCI should have a land use committee to focus on some of these issues.
That would have a direct link to the Planning Commission?
It could. I mean, there's all sorts of things that it could do, but we haven't as such had a focus on land use. You know, and that I started earlier when I was questioning you earlier, Bruce, about what's political and what's not. Is land use political?
It's a rhetorical question.
Anyway,
because
that's my point. I think we should consider having a land use committee that's going to focus on the issues there. We talk about many other things, but we haven't focused on land use as much as we could.
Gretchen?
I would like to raise the proposal that I made about a year ago that we really should be urging land use and transportation to have a dedicated committee for the planning side. They have one on the transportation side, both rural and urban. They need to have one where citizens are meeting with staff and hearing proposals and being able to make comments before they come out almost in stone. As we all know, when proposals come out of the department, I really think we should push for this. There are other counties that do it that way.
That has some real appeal to me. It's ironic that we're a land use group, but we don't have a direct tie to LUT.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for all that have stayed with this. Any other comments about the membership aspect, which brought in a discussion of the structuring of the CCI? That would be Dawn. Kevin. Where's Kevin?
Hi, this is Jackie.
Jackie.
So I know we were on membership, but as far as focus and scope and thinking of land use, I guess I feel like land use topics, whether it's different road proposals or home occupations or different, like there's other topics that aren't just the comment periods that were sent to our CPO meetings. So I'm wondering, I guess when Jim was talking, it made me think if a land use committee was formed, they can approach some of the topics like that to get feedback from the different communities. I'm just kind of thinking, I was looking at the questions on page 3, and I was trying to apply that situation.
Questions on page 3.
Like, in what ways has the CPO program expanded beyond the original scope? So the CPOs, Kevin sent the different proposals in our area. So then we talk about, you know, the comment period or this and that. But the proposals are usually about, like, it could be to be a home occupation, for example. So it's a bigger topic, but we're being sent the one proposal. So based off of what Jim said, I was wondering if a land use committee can talk about the bigger picture.
Well, since we're talking about something that doesn't exist yet, I think the answer is why not? And then wrestle it around.
I guess I saw it somewhere. I lost the page already, or maybe someone said it earlier. It's the delay in getting these announcements also. So I know for sure at our last meeting, we had one proposal and the comment period had already been over a week. And so what the participant just said about the direct line with LUT, it's, I don't know if it's just the mail system at the county or the copying and getting it out program, or why we're getting them so late. It's exclusionary.
Well, that certainly has been an issue as of late. Mary.
We should do something about it.
That was one of the roles that the communication subcommittee was trying to take on. And we kind of lost focus as bigger issues kind of got thrown in our path, like modernization.
I will remind viewers that we have been ready to respond to changes to the CPO system for 3.5 years now. And it's frankly a relief to be getting to this point where we can actually discuss specific proposals. So with that, brings us to guideline 4, which is the compliance with Oregon Public Meeting and Records Law. We've had the training by County Council on public meeting law, although there are elements that were kind of glanced over. I went to the Beaverton CCI meeting last month and learned that, for example, all notes taken at a CCI meeting where a quorum of members is present are part of the public meeting law requirements. So the notes that I have been writing down on my notebook right here are theoretically candidates for public record requests. And the Beaverton CCI provided their members with a form that they encouraged people to use when taking notes at a meeting. And then there is things like the serial meetings where you talk with one person, you talk with another, you talk with another. you hit a number of people that constitutes a quorum, and you've had a serial meeting. This is a brave, kind of terrifying new aspect of this program that we're going to have very clearly laid out for us so that we understand what our actual responsibilities are. Gretchen, what do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the comment at planning commission meetings at the end of the meeting, our city recorder comes and picks up all the pieces of paper and they are scanned onto the website. So anybody who wasn't at the meeting can see the notes that were being taken by planning commissioners. And that's actually what should be happening if you have in-person meetings. Somebody should pick up every piece of paper and scan it and put it on the website. That is full compliance with the state laws.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Guideline number 4.
Doodles included.
Doodles included. It might have meaning. Which brings us to guideline 5. Let's see, how are we doing for time? We are, okay, well, guideline 5, the geographies and CPO boundaries. There is a lot here. And I would encourage readers to, I don't really want to spend much time on the boundaries right now. But I will say a couple of things. And one is that and it looks like the handwriting is on the wall, that the commissioners want the CPO program to be tied to commissioner districts, which internally, personally, I've come to accept as is going to happen. And one of the big advantages of that is then we could require each county commissioner to attend each one to attend their CPO meeting. Because whenever a county commissioner is at a CPO meeting, you have greater attendance. You have people paying attention. So if, CPO, if the District 1 commissioner was always there, people would know, hey, I can go see my county commissioner, which brings up the aspect of the county commissioner is commissioner for every resident in their district, whether they're in the city or in the unincorporated area. So it really, to me, doesn't make any sense to exclude city boundaries from CPO, from the new CPO boundaries. The cities are part of the fabric of the commissioners' districts, and city residents, just as well as unincorporated residents, are interested in what the commissioner has to say. Fran.
Is this also true? Are we invited to the NAC meetings, et cetera, the Beaverton's version of our things, et cetera?
I don't.
I mean, you attended, so obviously we can go.
Well, yeah, they're public meetings, and
right.
And in every single advisory, public participation group that I've talked to struggles to get people involved. The Beaverton CCI struggles, the Beaverton NACs all have issues. How can we get more people involved? Clackamas County CPO is one of the things the Clackamas County CCI grapples with, is how can we get more people involved in their CPO program? I mean, it's not like people are just banging down the doors wanting to be involved in public participation in things which best case takes you 2 years to get anything done.
What is true is what our commissioners do for the county may sometimes actually impact people who live in a city, but within the county. So
yes,
that's a little different situation anyway. And I
Yeah.
think you have a good point regarding that aspect of it, because something that that's going to happen with the water in the county affects people who are using that water, whether they live in the county or the city.
Yeah,
Whether
and
they're a
Clean Water
renter or an
Services.
owner. Yeah.
Clean Water Services is the kind of the archetypal example of the Board of County Commissioners is also the Board of Clean Water Services, at least for the time being. And Clean Water Services services the entire unincorporated area and has some relationship to the rural area. I'm not really quite clear on what that is. But so there's a lot of things to talk about in the in the issue of boundaries. And personally, I'm in favor of having different functional boundaries for different aspects of the program. And that's all I want to say right now about that. Jackie?
Can you or someone explain to me community plans? I'm not quite wrapping my head around it on page 11.
Sure. Sort of briefly, in the 80s, when it was necessary to have an approved comprehensive plan, and Washington County was one of the last counties in the state to create its comprehensive plan, the county looked at the area inside the urban growth boundary and divided it up into communities. And those communities sometimes were one per CPO, and sometimes there were multiple communities per CPO. But when a development application is now submitted, the original community plans are referenced because on there are things like the areas of special interest, which would include natural resource areas, most of which have been decimated by development. But the community plans call out aspects of that geography that need to be considered when a development application is being reviewed. Mary.
It's also where the zoning lies. So if you want to know what the zoning is for a particular area, you go to the community plan and it tells you what the underlying zoning is.
And all that Washington County does for land use planning for the unincorporated area is done through zoning. And once the Nolan and Dolan Supreme Court cases limited the prescriptive ability of jurisdictions to say, you will put a path here, the community plans have been weakened considerably by what's it called? Property rights. So, Jackie, does that give you some functional idea?
Yes, that's helpful.
Okay, so if you go,
and you can look them up on the county website.
Yeah.
It's probably an instructive thing to do.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm still feeling torn on the boundaries. I see both sides, and like personally, I just don't want ours to change. So
it's going to be an upheaval for sure. And if we use commissioner districts, poor little Aloha will be divided amongst 3 different commissioner districts. And Aloha suffers from a lack of identity enough that dividing it up between 3 CPOs does not seem like an optimal way of treating the community. So we ask, in the paper, we have to ask, are CPO boundaries for the county commissioners or for the community members? That's, I think, a very key aspect of this discussion is who
yeah,
the CPO boundaries for.
Especially at least for Kevin and I in Roy, Verboort, Gales Creek. Well, Banks is growing. Banks could be a changing dynamic of their CPO and membership potentially, in 3, 5, 10, 15 years. So that's another reason why I believe we want to stick with what we have. So
it will take some serious collaboration between community engagement and the CPO leaders to come up with something that makes us both confident that we have a good system. And you can tell from these discussions that not everybody agrees on everything. And I'm really, frankly, sad that Ayla jumped out of the meeting because her comments are really significant and important. Gretchen, what do you got?
I feel really strongly about the CPO individuality. There's such a difference from CPO issues, and CPO 1 are very different, not right or wrong, than what's going on out in Paul's district. And shoving everybody into one would inevitably negatively impact the rural areas, just because there aren't as many people, aren't as many voters, and the issues are so different. It's ludicrous to do that. So much. I will fight to the death on that one.
Death. Oh, come on. Let's back up just a notch.
You know what I meant.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not there's no hill in this entire program that I'm willing to die for. So feels like we've had a pretty good discussion about this, at least enough so that we've had some hackles raised. Virginia, what do you got?
I had to leave the room for a couple of minutes, and the topic I wanted to say something about kind of whizzed on past. So I'm going to throw something really out quickly. And that is that a lot of the forces at the state level and at the county level want land use to get speeded up. The middle housing is one example. And what with the types of activities that the CPOs undertake, I often call it sand in the machine. That, you know, it's the old wooden shoe in the gears, trying to slow things down. We're not trying to sabotage. Ooh, that's the word, isn't it? Sabotage. But we're trying to slow things down so that the community has a chance to say something. And it's just a sort of organic truth that engaging community members in these processes slows it down. And we have to be aware that there's resistance to our existence on that basis. We know that a good amount of political funding in this county comes from the developer and realtor communities. I'm not going to name names, but we know that. And they're beholden to, I mean, there's nothing special about Washington County that insulates it from that kind of bias.
Well, that's a good segue into talking about the work program, the LUT work planning program. Mary has submitted a formal request to check out the sidewalk state. Jim testified at the LCDC Community Involvement Advisory Committee meeting on middle housing. And Mary was suggesting that perhaps we should have a subcommittee on middle housing, specifically to look at notification requirements along the lines of what you were talking about, Virginia. Jim, do you have any thoughts about how to proceed with middle housing? Or Gretchen, you got your hand up.
I think it's a great idea. Unfortunately, we have the directives that have come from the state in terms of the legislation have basically hogtied planning commissions, and there's very little that we can do. I've asked, I've tried to get around, and I have been unsuccessful. So I'm sorry to rain on the parade, but
we certainly have our work cut out to make any changes. Mary, what do you?
I just want to give you the
The
Yeah, I don't think there really is much that can be done at the county level. I think my idea would be to help educate people that it's something that's being shoved down from the state. And this subcommittee would be more working and lobbying at the state level. And, you know, one of the questions I have is, did this legislation totally trump the goal 1 requirement for community engagement in land use decisions?
Well, and the response we got back from an LCDC planner says it does not, which is
Well,
not.
exactly. And I think that's, you know, what I would hope a subcommittee could do is to take those pieces and run with them and to follow through, and, you know, something that CCI just doesn't have the bandwidth to move forward. And there's certainly a lot of interest.
Yeah. Jim.
Okay, I'd like to talk on a positive approach on that. Am I still muted?
No, you're coming.
Okay, I did make a presentation. I did testify before the Citizen Advisory, the LCDC Citizen Involvement Advisory Committee, and I put together a letter, and they want me to submit it in letter. I was supposed to draft a letter for this group, and I could read it. It's pretty quick if you want. But basically, as I said, on the positive side, very simply, Washington County is a home rule county. They can do what they want to some degree beyond the state's procedures. So we request changes for better public notice for nearby residents. There is none now in Washington County. 2, we request neighborhood meetings be held so developers can present their plans and receive feedback from neighbors. And 3, we request that, quote, middle housing, unquote, be elevated to a type 2 process. Very simply, we would just ask for those things. And because we're a citizen involvement group, we want to promote that. And we've in our CPO, we've had complaints from people who have not been even known about middle housing applications and developments, and it affects their parking, their transportation. It affects a number of things. And so anyway, I have a whole letter with other paragraphs, but I just want to focus on, you know, I think we can request those 3 things. Maybe there's more, but those 3 things, and we're taking a positive approach, what we should be doing as a committee in approaching this. I mean, my thought also is I could take, at this point, the letter, I took that to the State Advisory Committee, but it could also go to, what I have here goes directly to the Board of Commissioners here in Washington County, but it should also go to elected officials down in Salem and others. So anyway, that's where I am. I want to keep it positive and simple. And I know, you know, there are laws. Gretchen said there's this and that, but we can take an approach that goes positive and beyond that. And we're not going to lose anything by doing that.
Good. So you're coming to the steering committee meeting tomorrow?
What time's the steering committee meeting?
11.
Yeah, it's on my calendar.
Okay, good. So let's kick that letter around a little bit and give it a formal structure. Mary, unmute.
You're muted.
Jim, I love your approach. And my question to you is, do you see any value in creating a subcommittee to focus specifically on this topic? And part of it is I think we could bring in people from kind of outside the CPO leadership that would be very interested in participating. So create something very much like your SNR subcommittee.
Right, Mary, but we could take some action right now, and I'll be bringing the letter to the steering committee tomorrow. And if the steering committee doesn't do it, I'm going to take it forward. I'm an individual. I'm going to continue to take it forward because it's very important. But I would love to have it done by the whole CCI. Our CPO has discussed it. So anyway, I'll be glad to have a committee organized about middle housing, but right now we need to move forward. It's you know, late February and the legislature is in session. We might have some impact.
Very good. So we'll work on it tomorrow. We're getting to our end of our meeting. Gretchen, what do you got?
Yeah, in a positive venue, Jim, what you need to do realistically is it's going to take state legislation, and that means 2 years from now. I think it would be really useful if you can work with LOC. They're much more effective in terms, that's the League of Oregon Cities. They're much more effective in getting stuff through than the county organization, which is dominated by the rural counties downstate. And the policy decisions in terms of what's going to be lobbied will be done in the spring of 26 for the 27 session. It's too late to get anything in for this year, but with a committee, you could do some really good planning and get it organized and work with other jurisdictions, other counties to get something ready to go. And if I can figure out how to get appointed to a policy committee, I can take the lead, but I can't say I'll be able to do that since I'm not on a city council. But LOC is the real vehicle to use. Anyway,
So-
that's my suggestion.
Good. That's a great suggestion. Jim, do you have a response to that?
It's not too late to get something happening down in Salem. The committees still have bills that they can work on. If this is presented in the proper fashion, there could be something this session.
Okay, we'll kick it around. Okay, so Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my thoughts, just what we're doing like right now today, there's many of us that are actually sending letters and doing a lot of work on the middle housing. I specifically have a significant middle housing going on, 100% significant natural resource land within our close to my neighborhood, and I was contacted by citizens anyway. And I think I'm on most of the emails, at least with like Fran and Jim and some of them, but we need all the CPOs to have this information so that they'll know something's happening. And it almost makes more sense. It's great, and I agree with Jim. We have to keep doing our own thing when it's specific to something, but it needs to be rolled up so all the CPOs are being informed of it, so that we can get on each other's bandwagon. This is the thought. I don't know who we'd send it to. Someone needs to be a point lead if we want to make sure it's summarized and emails are going out.
Raise a good point.
Who would that be?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Mary Lou.
This is a question for Virginia. Virginia, I think somehow or other you find out about those middle housing developments somehow. How do you find out?
CPO chairs receive the development applications for their CPOs.
You get
You have
the
you have to go find it. I can give you instructions on how to find it.
No, not that, Nancy. I know what you mean about that, but Virginia, unmute yourself so I can hear you.
Sorry.
Because I know you find out.
We get paper mail from the county. CPO leaders get paper mail from the county, which also adds to the delay.
Yes.
We keep trying to get them to send us this stuff electronically, but we get notifications, and there is a comment period for the CPO, but there's no neighborhood meeting.
Right. So about how much lead time do you get?
It really depends on how the days of the week fall and whether the mail was, slow or fast.
So once
it can be anything from 2 days to 4 or 5 days, not much.
Okay, so once a developer puts in their application,
right,
that's when you would get a notice that the application has gone in.
Correct. It's under consideration.
As opposed to the normal route when they have the developer has a neighborhood meeting.
That's separate. That's separate.
I know the neighborhood
Okay.
meeting takes place before there is
Correct.
any application.
Correct.
And so I see the issue for me is the application for the middle housing is already in. There hasn't been any neighborhood meeting. You get notified that there is an application. No, Mary's
Mary?
shaking her head.
No, if it's a type 1, the CPOs do not get notice.
Right.
So most middle housing, we don't get notification for because it's type 1.
Okay,
Type 1
so
is a staff.
how does Virginia?
I've been getting them.
She always
Well,
finds
it
them
may be
out.
that it may be sometimes they get elevated to type 2. So if you have extenuating circumstances like a SNR on site, they have to have it gets elevated to a type 2.
But it still doesn't require any neighborhood meeting,
Correct.
even if
Right.
it's
Correct.
elevated to type 2.
Correct.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. And that's the thing, because so far, the only way I find out whether or not there is a middle housing thing going in that I didn't know about is by going to the projects under review and just
Yep.
going down the
Yep.
whole list
Yep.
and seeing if there's something new.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is
That-
hard.
Okay, duly. Okay, so that figures into Jim's suggestion that the letter suggests that we elevate all of these to type 2. Okay, so we're hitting the end of our meeting.
Okay.
Jackie.
Real quick before I lose it, I want to get feedback from you guys. Is there a spot potentially in the modernization project? I think it would be really amazing if we could have, in thinking about the legislature and these bills, all these land use bills. And I remember during Senate Bill 4 being so surprised at all these cities that sent in testimony. But the CPOs don't know that different cities are submitting testimony for certain bills. There's no, I guess, awareness, or the only community involvement is if you're going to the different city council meetings, right? But then it could still not even have been a city council vote or decision to submit testimony on certain bills. So I guess I'm wondering if there's a way, when we're talking about LUT and I know they have legislative concepts. Is there a way to get legislative concepts to our CPOs to help us participate in that way?
Gretchen, you got something to say?
Well, Jackie, I was going to suggest that we talk offline. Having been both at the county level and at city level, I've got some background, and that's why I was suggesting the LOC connection, League of Oregon Cities, because the county organization is really focused on the areas outside of the Portland metro area. So you're welcome to get a hold of me, and I'll talk to you about how that works.
Jim, you might have the final word for this meeting here.
I have found that the county does things that we don't know about. They've changed some land use laws without bringing anything to us about. Aren't we supposed to be involved in the whole planning process and understand what they're doing? For example, this last little session, the short session last year, they changed, I don't have the number in front of me, but it had to do with significant natural resources outside the UGB. So I had to ask at a CCI meeting like this a couple of years ago, and Teresa Cherniak said, "Oh no, an ordinance serves the whole county." Well, they took it to legislature and made it so that it didn't serve the whole county. So I agree with Jackie, her points.
Well, I want to thank all of you for being nerdy enough to stay interested in this subject matter and discuss it. We've hit the end of our allotted time. I mean, we kind of had haven't really had subcommittee reports, but I don't think there's anything particularly pressing.
I want to thank Bruce for pulling all this stuff together.
Well, it's my pleasure and honor to do it. And again, as I started off, I think that creating a resilient culture around us is of tantamount importance, especially given the earth-shaking changes that are undergoing in our civic structures.
Could I make a really brief announcement of something
Yes.
that affects us all? The Board of County Commissioners today at their work session was contemplating shutting down the Washington County Museum. The museum has run itself into the ground financially and programmatically, if you ask me. And so the county was talking about what to do with the collections, and it's really dire. If you have any interest at all in Washington County history, I mean, we have an incredible history story to tell. And I didn't get the feeling, I listened to the whole session, and I didn't get the feeling that there was any member of the commission that had any appreciation for the value of our county history. So it's sad.
It is. Paul?
Unmute.
One of the other groups I belong to, I'm one of the Washington County Fair boosters. There's only 6 of us left, active members of the boosters. And one of our members has agreed to donate land for an organization called the Tualatin Plains, I forget the name of it. Anyway, it's an organization which has as its mission to create a meeting place which the legacy of the fairgrounds was taken away from us. Yeah. So, Lyle Spichart, many of you know him, is donating a large chunk of his land to this Tualatin Plains organization. And one of the things that we talked about was providing a place for the Washington County Museum for all of their artifacts, and to make sure that there's a place that they're preserved. Now, this is an organization that anyone here can join, become a member of, in order to.
Well, now's the time to do something, because they're on the verge of pulling the plug.
Yeah.
I mean, they're only interested in the amount of money that the county is spending on it.
Well, we know that we're aware of what was happening to it, and the fact that we were going to lose a whole bunch of history, and this is part of the problem with the fairgrounds itself. The legacy there is pretty much ignoring the history of how that fairgrounds even came into existence.
Yep.
So the Tualatin Plains group will actually be the organization that could conceivably take all of the artifacts, make sure that they're taken care of, provide for community access to it all, so you would still have access to seeing everything, and then there will be all the other events they plan to have that are all aspect of the natural history as well as political history, etc., etc.
Okay, so that is really encouraging. And why don't you and Virginia sort of compare notes, and I can see a Cedar Mill News article coming out about the possibility of an alternative to the Washington County Museum. With that said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move we adjourn.
And Mary seconds it. Thank you again for your stalwart involvement and attention. And Alicia, it was an honor to have you listening in on us. I think you got a pretty good overview of what we're about and what we do. So
I
thank
sure
you.
did. Thank you very much. This was extremely insightful. So thank you for allowing me to eavesdrop on
You got
your
it.
meeting.
You got it. Well, you were more than eavesdropping. So
It's a public meeting.
we're
Jumped in the
collaborating
deep end
together.
of land use.
Okay.
Adios.
Adios.
Night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.